Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I believe all of you are doing fine, and today we are going to go through the detailed explanation of the chapter We Are Not Afraid to Die If We Can All Be Together. This is the third and the last installment of the series, and I will start with this very important quote by Mr. Theodore Roosevelt, the former president of the United States of America. And according to him, courage is not having the strength to go on. It is going on when you don't have the strength. And it fits so perfectly. The family was suffering pretty badly. Their ship was sinking. They had to find a small island in that enormous sea, and they were suffering physical injuries too. So it was difficult, like very difficult, but they were struggling, and that shows that they were courageous enough. So let's get back to the text now. That evening, Mary and I sat together holding hands as the motion of the ship brought more and more water in through the broken planks. We both felt the end was near. So holding hands is a gesture through which you show that how much you care and how much you support each other. And on your right you can see the picture of broken planks, and the same kind of situation was faced by Wave Walker, and that is why the water was continuously coming inside. So the couple, Gordon Cook and Mary, they somehow knew that maybe their end was near and they might not survive this ordeal and they might die. But Wave Walker rode out of the storm, and by the morning of January 6, with the wind easing, I tried to get a reading on the sextant. I'll show you the sextant. It's on your right top. A sextant is a doubly reflecting navigation instrument that measures the angular distance between two visible objects. So, like on land, we have the roads and the paths and the trails, and we know that where we are heading towards, we know the directions also. But in sea as well as in air, this task is pretty difficult. So in sea as well as in air, they use the sextant. Back in the chart room, I worked on wind speeds. This is the chart room here. It is a room in ship, steamer or sailing vessel in which the charts, maps, instruments, etc. are kept. And you can see in the picture also that many instruments are being kept here. So he was checking the changes of course, drift and current in an effort to calculate our position. The best I could determine was that we were somewhere in 150,000 kilometers of ocean looking for a 65-kilometer wide island. And with the comparison, it is very clear that how next to impossible was it, finding a 65-kilometer wide island in that huge sea, and they were sinking with every passing second. While I was thinking, Sue, moving painfully, joined me. The left side of her head was now very swollen, and her blackened eyes narrowed to slits. Slits is cut. So what has happened? Her head was terribly swollen, and because of that swollen head, her eyes were narrowed, and they were as narrow as that of a cut. So you can imagine how much she must be suffering, in how much pain she was. Yet she came to her father. She gave me a card she had made. On the front, she had drawn caricatures of Mary and me with the words, here are some funny people. Did they make you laugh? I laughed a lot as well. Inside was a message. Oh, how I love you both. So this card is to say thank you and let's hope for the best. Somehow we had to make it. Now first thing is the caricature. What do you understand by caricatures? Caricatures are the pictures, the depiction of the people, and they have a very funny message or a funny connotation around them. And as you can see, Mr. Bean is actually very funny by himself, but as you can see through the pictures of Thor, Mr. Einstein and Steve Jobs, that they have a very funny gesture on their face. So in the same manner, Mary prepared a card with the caricatures of her parents, and she wanted to make the father laugh actually, and that is how she was putting in positivity in her father. And a positive attitude gives you power over your circumstances instead of your circumstances having power over you. So that little girl was trying to do so much for her father, and that made her father filled with positivity. I checked and rechecked my calculations. We had lost our main compass, and I was using a spare which had not been corrected for magnetic variation. I made an allowance for this and another estimate of the influence of the westerly currents which flow through this part of the Indian Ocean. About 2 p.m., I went on deck and asked Larry to steer a course of 185 degrees. If we were lucky, I told him with the conviction I did not feel, he could expect to see the island at about 5 p.m. So the narrator was not sure by himself, but he told Larry that if we go for this direction, we might see the island. Then, with a heavy heart, I went below, climbed on my bunk, and amazingly dozed off. That he slept. Now, sometimes what happens that even when the world is coming on to us and we are faced with situations from all parts of the life, still we somehow manage to sleep soundly, and that's quite surprising, right? The same happened with the narrator here. He was having so many problems, but he surprisingly slept. When I woke, it was 6 p.m. and growing dark. I knew we must have missed the island, and with the sail we had left, we couldn't hope to beat back into the westerly winds. At that moment, a tousled head appeared by my bunk. "Can I have a hug?" Jonathan asked. Sue was right behind him. "Why am I getting a hug now?" I asked. And the expression by the boy is all pure love. It always protects you, it always trusts you, it always hopes, perseveres, and love never fails. So let's see that how the love of these children was successful enough to bring a success right under their feet. "Why am I getting a hug now?" I asked. "Because you are the best daddy in the whole world and the best captain," my son replied. "Not today, John, I'm afraid." "Why, you must be," said Sue in a matter-of-fact voice. "You found the island." "What?" I shouted. "It's out there in front of us," they chorused. "As big as a battleship." So they finally found the island, and here it's a very, very important message. Don't give up. Normally, it is the last key on the ring which opens the door. So remember that. And Isle Amsterdam was standing right in front of them, as big as the battleship. So you can understand the battleship and the island. And this is the message that you must remember. I rushed on deck and gazed with relief at the stark outline of Isle Amsterdam. It was only a bleak piece of volcanic rock. Bleak is barren, with little vegetation. The most beautiful island in the world. And this is quite important. Why did the narrator call Isle Amsterdam a bleak piece of volcanic rock with little vegetation the most beautiful island? Yes, it was the most beautiful island. It saved their lives. That is why. We anchored offshore for the night, and the next morning all 28 inhabitants of the island cheered as they helped us ashore. So they were finally out of the sea, on the land, and they were finally safe. With land under my feet again, my thoughts were full of Larry and Herbie, cheerful and optimistic under the direst stress, and of Mary, who stayed at the wheel for all those crucial hours. Most of all, I thought of a 7-year-old girl who did not want us to worry about a head injury, which subsequently took 6 minor operations to remove a recurring blood clot between skin and skull. So you can imagine how much Suzanne suffered physically, and she was in so much pain, but she was determined to be supportive. She was brave enough to be patient, and this shows that how much devoted she was towards her family, towards her parents. And last phrase, and of a 6-year-old boy who was not afraid to die. So, like when a person receives a trophy, a medal or an award, there is that award winning speech. So, he is giving like that award winning speech. He is thankful to the crewmen, he is thankful to his wife, he is thankful to the daughter and the son. With the help and support and care from all of them, they could finally find their survival medium, Isle Amsterdam. And when you conclude the chapter, there are these two takeaways. One is about family, because the title of the chapter is We Are Not Afraid to Die If We Can All Be Together. So it is about that bonding of the family. It works like an anchor during rough waters. And this chapter proves it correct. How they, the family, held each other together in that direst of the stress. And the second thing is about success. That when you are facing a problem, a trouble, a challenge, then what you need to do? You have to see your goal. You have to understand the obstacles, create a positive mental picture. You have to clear your mind of self doubt. You have to embrace the challenge too. You have to stay on track no matter what, and show the world you can do it. And this was done by the captain and the entire family as well as the crewmen. And as I said, that the chapter is about the bonding of the family. So, family is about love, it is about support, trusting each other, sacrificing for each other, showing courage, being courageous for each other, caring for each other, having that gratitude, thankfulness for each other, and most importantly, respect for each other. And when you look at all these points, and when you compare it to the behavior of the family, the Cook family, you realize that how every word is true to its perfect sense. So, this is the last slide related to this brilliant chapter, written so well that it never sways away from its basic lesson that family is the one that works like an anchor for you. And never forget that. So, again, I would like to thank you for listening to me.